There's only 2 slides in this video, but there's actually a lot of content. I'm not going to go through all of it in detail. A lot of it will be common sense and you'll know it. I'll highlight a few things. There's a number of practices in good facilitation. It's a bit like talking about football. You've got to be able to head the ball, pass the ball, control the ball, video the ball, bend the ball, lots of stuff. Sounds easy, but people that are good at it get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars a week. You won't earn that kind of money as an expert facilitator. But let's go through some of these. Quick thinking, well, that's the ability to process information, be able to analyze, compare and contrast, make inference interpretations, evaluate, come up with ideas, manage your own thinking to make sure you stay on track, and various other things. Eye-level skill. Sensory acuity I say a little bit about because it's not such a common term, but it's essentially being very aware of what's going on around you. Police, obviously, and army personnel are trained in this, but it's being very observant, picking up on information, listening, reading people's body language so that you can pick up when you might need to come in, change the situation, perhaps get some feedback. Staying neutral, we know what that means. It sounds easy, but very often our valuations can come into play. When we're facilitating, it's really important to stick with facts, let people make their stances, give their reasons for it. It's not for us to make judgments of a political or religious nature. Empathic listening, again, one of those things that sounds easy. This is where you really do concentrate on what people are saying and what they might not be saying but are trying to communicate perhaps non-verbally. Asking questions, a key facilitation skill. It's not just simply saying to people, well, why do you think this, why this? In fact, why questions are not terribly useful. But the good use of what now questions in open, closed, probing manners, eye-level skill. Paraphrasing, again, it's about taking the information that's flying around and bringing it down and sending it back to people and saying, well, are you saying this? It's a process of summary in many respects, and obviously it connects with lots of the other core practices. In fact, they work as a dynamic system. Testing assumptions, this means that when people are saying things, or it appears that people are thinking in a particular way, and picking up on this and saying, well, hold on a minute, it seems like you're saying this or thinking that, on what basis is it true? Again, it's very much bound up with sensory acuity and the ability to use questions. Making meaning, eye-level activity, because a lot of information flying around. As a facilitator, you've got to process this, and you've got to be able to say, well, hold on a minute, is this the reality? Are we building this type of understanding? Is this where we're going? And again, feeding that back and getting feedback from participants, which is the next one. Giving and receiving feedback. As teaching professionals, we know how important this is for learning. The providing summaries, well, again, that's a key thing that we do as trainers, very important in facilitation as well. And with all this information flying around, we've got to actually manage it. And that's where we often use facilitation tools or process tools. And that takes us on to slide 2. Facilitation tools, often referred to as process tools. These are the ways in which we manage all this information flying around so it doesn't create too much cognitive overload and people get confused. What process tools are also sometimes referred to as thinking tools. They don't actually improve the quality of someone's thinking. If people are thinking badly, it doesn't work, but it helps us to organize information and provide a structure. So we have tools that help us to gather and organize information. We do this sometimes with flow charts. We can even use mind mapping for this. So often mind mapping can be used for generating new ideas, brainstorming, those kind of things. Group decision making. Well, once you've organized a lot of information, you've generated stuff, you might want to make some decisions. And there are certain tools like plus minus interesting, an evaluation matrix I use quite a bit, where we have our criteria and we score it in some way. And then we take some action, and we've got to then work out, well, how are we going to do this? And things like, well, the 5 W's and H tree charts are useful. To check these tools out, just Google them or whatever. I'm not going to go into them now, otherwise this is going to become a very long video. Things like dealing with conflict where people have different opinions and valuations, it might get a bit heated. One of the most famous tools is Edward de Bono's thinking hats, where that when you are wearing different hats, you can only respond within certain dimensions. Like if it's a white hat, it must deal with factual information. When it's a red hat, people can then just talk about their feelings, but nothing else. And that's the same for all the hats. So the idea is that you manage information, factual information, positive information, novel information, emotional information, and occasionally putting on the blue hat and being metacognitive and say, well, how are we doing overall? Big point is facilitation, process tools, thinking tools, a fundamental part of the good facilitator's toolkit. But read the quote from Al below, because that's fundamental. These tools are simply a combination of words and lists organized around lines, circles, boxes, graphs and pictures. In other words, they are physical things, but underpinning it all is your own thinking. They are used to enable groups to bring together ideas and make decisions. They do not create good thinking in themselves. They are simply a mechanism for managing information. So hopefully that gives you a decent overview, and you can look into those various practices and process tools in more detail, look at it in relation to what you teach and your own strengths and weaknesses as a facilitator, and you'll be well on your way to improving your competence in this area.